They don't have the man they went for. They're taking comfort in the fact that so far they've recovered ballistic vests, army fatigue, guns and ammunition. But at the same time, they're unwilling to say how many guns and how much ammunition they have. As for the people killed, the Jamaica Constabulary Force has sent a release saying they were mostly men found in locations which seem to suggest that they were involved in the gun battle. Today, the military is saying,
I thought you were referring to the specific, yes.
For no women and children out of those?
Not that I have been advised.
Meanwhile, the operation has led to claims and counterclaims. Residents claiming to be from TIVOLI Gardens have been calling talk shows, claiming the security forces have been abusing them, including preventing them from carrying injured relatives and friends to hospital.
If there have been abuses, then that will be dealt with by our internal processes. In terms of whether we will take persons who are injured to medical facilities, we have in fact done so on a number of occasions. We have a military aid post set up, and any persons that come to our attention that need any form of assistance, we have provided such assistance.
And of claims that soldiers have been burning bodies, ostensibly in an effort to conceal the number of casualties.
I have no report of that, and that is something that would have to be investigated, but I am fairly confident that I can say, based on our training, our briefing to our troops, our modus operandi, I would be very surprised if there was any such occurrence.
And of claims that the Jamaican government sought help from the United States in the effort, given the type of aircraft seen in the skies over Western Kingston yesterday.
There was no outside assistance in this operation, that is for sure, with full understanding of that.
The question that we asked that Mr. Vaz answered, if you could answer it, did the military get any assistance from the US or any other body?
The minister answered.
So you have the same answer?
Well, I think the minister is in a position to answer the question. Yes. Well, okay. If there was a fighter jet, I would be just as surprised as you are.
Meanwhile, the information minister says people who want to report members of the security forces for cases of abuse during the state of emergency should call 946-1248. Archibald Gordon, TVJ News. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Bruce Golding came out in firm defense of the police operation in TIVOLI Gardens in Parliament this afternoon. Lawmakers came to Gordon House under very tight security to hear Mr. Golding make a statement. Darian Henry reports.
The Prime Minister was speaking to MPs against the backdrop of echoing gunfire in the distance and an almost impenetrable security blanket around Gordon House. He said the Golding government regretted the loss of lives as a result of the operation by the security forces. But the Prime Minister said the mayhem facing the security forces made clear the need for extraordinary powers to restore law and order to the corporate area.
During this period of public emergency, a concerted effort will be made to go after the criminal gunmen in whatever community they may be ensconced. The violence that has been unleashed on the society by armed criminal elements must be repelled. The operations being carried out under emergency powers are extraordinary measures, but they are an extraordinary response to an extraordinary challenge to the safety and security of our citizens. Other measures will have to be employed.
Mr. Golding promised MPs that the regulations governing the state of emergency would be brought to the House for approval next week Tuesday in accordance with the Emergency Powers Act. He said the freshly drafted regulations would pave the way for the setting up of a special tribunal to examine cases of persons who have been arrested.
The chairman of the tribunal shall be appointed by the Chief Justice and 2 other members by the Governor General. It is expected that the membership of the tribunal will be announced tomorrow.
The Prime Minister also agreed with a suggestion from opposition leader Portia Simpson-Miller for an oversight body to be set up to monitor the state of emergency. For her part, the opposition leader said if an example is not made of the current developments in West Kingston, the sacrifices of the present will be lost.
Jamaicans will have to take the opportunity once the immediate conflict has subsided, Mr. Speaker, to define a new path and demand higher levels of accountability of those who serve in public life.
Darian Henry, TVJ News.
In the meantime, some West Kingston residents are lashing out against the Golding administration and in particular their MP, Prime Minister Bruce Golding. Some are also angry at the opposition for its challenges to the government on the extradition issue which triggered the events of the last few days.
Bruce don't step down. Why Bruce don't call this off? We are begging you, please leave innocent people. We can't take it no more. We are hungry. We can't do nothing more. Bruce Golding has the right to go to jail. He know all about this, and he makes so much innocent people dead right now. Bruce Golding is behind this. Him to go to jail right now. Peter Phillips told Bruce that we have to go American law because they may get 3 months for extradite and they never extradite. And the same law, and the same law them, I see a law they show Bruce and I see a law Bruce can't. So Peter Phillips send out that same way, I sell out over Spanish town, that's why Peter Phillips can't get the vote again.
Meanwhile, a news team was just in time to see some of the injured being taken to hospital. Security personnel were manning the Kingston Public Hospital.
The Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett says the government has started to prepare a response to the negative image of Jamaica in the international media that may affect the industry.
Well, this will definitely challenge us in terms of getting, the kinks out of the brand straightened. It will require a lot of work by the stakeholders, and we are beginning to prepare ourselves for that. The arrivals for May has been affected in the last few days. It hasn't been significantly impacted, but it has been affected. But I think forward bookings is really where we have to go. So the difficulty that we're going to have down the road now is to ensure that those concerns about forward bookings are met.
Education Minister Andrew Holness has defended the decision to press ahead with the holding of the Caribbean Secondary Examinations Council (CSEC) exams, despite the difficulties students are having getting to exam centres. TVJ News caught up with Mr. Holness this morning, and he elaborated on why the ministry has insisted on going ahead with the exams. Donald Christian reports.
The Education Minister Andrew Holness said the ministry decided that students who are scheduled to sit CSEC exams today will have to do so despite the tense atmosphere. However, the minister gave details on what will happen if the situation affecting students sitting exams worsens.
Now, if the situation deteriorates, and we are monitoring, the situation is dynamic and fluid, we will be sending out further advisories regarding the closure of schools. As it relates to exams, we are going to go as far as we can with the examinations. We are not certain whether or not supplementary exams could be held. And even if they were to be held, we could not announce that they could be held.
Mr. Holness said the ministry is going to proceed with the examinations as far as possible. He said while schools in the affected areas are closed, it would also be unfair to students who do not live in those areas but were scheduled to sit exams there if the ministry decided to call off the examinations. However, the Education Minister said all alternative measures are being looked at for exceptional circumstances.
For students who live in the affected areas, if they have sat an exam already, a paper in the exam, and they have done their SBAs, it is quite possible, and indeed very likely, that CXC could award them a grade or assign a grade to them. And that grade may not necessarily be unfavorable or worse than they would have had they had normal circumstances.
Mr. Holness added that if students are unable to sit their exams and if the ministry is unable to implement supplementary exams, then students will have to sit them at the next available sitting, which for many is in January. In that case, the Education Minister also said that the government would stand the cost of resits for those students who are verified as being affected. Donald Christian, TVJ News.
And we are joined by the Mayor of Kingston and Councillor for the TIVOLI Gardens Division, Desmond McKenzie. But first, supermarkets across the corporate area were abuzz with activity today as shoppers try to prepare for the uncertain days ahead. Meanwhile, looters struck stores in downtown Kingston overnight as store owners in Halfway Tree reinforced their shops preparing for any eventuality. Camille Gale reports.
With the war still being waged on the streets of the capital, many Jamaicans descended on supermarkets today to stock up for what may be a while inside their homes. At the Brooklyn supermarket, with just about an hour before closing time, shoppers were grabbing the essentials. Most people came looking for bread, but there was none. The operators of the supermarket say they've been doing brisk business all day.
Due to the circumstances, we think there was a hurricane coming because it's been totally packed all day. From the cashier, go right down the aisle, solid. We have our merchandisers, in-house merchandisers have been restocking the shelves. We didn't get any deliveries on breads or other baked goods today because, of course, nobody came to work. But what we had from Sunday has been sold out.